Ray's ship escaped Andrometron with Concha and Agro unscathed. Quinn kept walking forward, stepping it up to a running pace as she leaned over the tunnel through the planet's crust. She shot up randomly at the air, trying desperately to land a hit. "Come back! I'm not done with you!" she yelled. "Ah!" Hey, Miser stepped forward. "Calm down, it's alright. They killed so many people just now, how are you calm?" Quinn turned around. "I'm not. Oh, believe me, I'm not." Miser shook his head. "I'm just trying to be a good leader here. I have to at least pretend to be calm," he said while wiping away a tear. "We need to bring the Sentinel somewhere safe, he's not okay." Miser gestured to the Sentinel curled up on the floor, mumbling to himself. "Yeah, you're right," Quinn agreed. "Quinn, by the way." She introduced herself formally. "Friend of the Sentinel." "Miser, last of the Andromedan leaders," he said solemnly. "What's the story with you, by the way?" Quinn asked. "Former head of Galactic Jail?" She asked to keep a steady conversation going to calm Miser and herself. She could see he was on the verge of tears. They approached the Sentinel. Quinn picked up his box off the floor. "I lost the planet," Miser said, ashamed. "How do you lose a planet?" Quinn asked. "I don't know." Miser leaned over and held his hand to the Sentinel's forehead. The Sentinel flinched. Quinn approached him and held out her hand. "Come on, let's go." She held the box firmly in her one hand. Miser kept a hand on the Sentinel's forehead and used his other to grab Quinn's, and the three of them flashed away. With so much of Andrometron in ruins and its entire leadership besides Miser destroyed, he decided it was the best course of action to go with Quinn and help the Sentinel out. After all, the Sentinel had just saved his life. When they returned to Janistar, Quinn told Vax and Foxtrot as much as she knew, and Miser gave what little extra information he had on the issue to them. The Sentinel was under close watch and care. He hadn't spoken to anyone since his return. He'd been sitting in the same chair for almost a day, speechless. His eyes were dry and red, and his one good hand shook constantly. Vax worriedly searched for help. "Where are you going?" Foxtrot stood at the doorway. He saw Vax in the office, preparing herself to leave. "I'm gonna go get help," she said, not making direct eye contact with Foxtrot, trying to get past him. "From?" Foxtrot adjusted himself. He looked at her with doubt in his eyes. He didn't think anyone could help the Sentinel, not now. "A good friend," she nodded. "He'll know what to do." She placed her time machine safely on the ground. She tapped the top circle and stood back slightly. "Who? Where is he?" Foxtrot stepped back and stared at her time machine in confusion and curiosity. Vax didn't answer. The room flashed with white, and with it, she was gone. Vax stood around awkwardly in the whiteness of the void for a bit, looking around for any doors. She was told there would be doors. Weird place, she talked to herself to break the awkward tension of nothing happening nowhere. "Hello?" She looked around. "I was told this is the Extraverse." A door, bright white like the walls, opened by itself near her. She stepped through cautiously. The room appeared to be a void of space. When the door shut behind her, it did so abruptly. She turned around, startled at its swiftness. She was confused to see no wall, just more space. She poked her head around the door, and still more space. How does that work? "Why are you here?" Time's voice called out to her. "For him." Vax pointed directly in front of her, at the throne of ancient rubble and stone. "If we attack the palace first, then Vistor will be caught off guard." Miser spoke quietly to Foxtrot, overlooking a map of Ilsos in the president's office. Quinn sat uncomfortably in a foldable chair in the corner of the room, listening. "You'll be expecting that, Miser. We have to draw them away with an attack somewhere else. It seems Vistor doesn't come with them very often, so we can get him alone." "Do none of you care?" Quinn stood up. Foxtrot stopped talking and darted his eyes upwards, not moving his head. Miser turned around quickly, startled by Quinn. "The Sentinel needs help, and you guys are just trying to figure out how to fight back?" "Quinn." Foxtrot backed away from the table. No, you don't get it. Look what Ray did to him. You can't fight back." "How do you know? You only just met the Sentinel. You have no idea what's going on here." "No one knows what's going on here. This is completely different from last time," Quinn yelled. "What do you know of last time?" Miser mumbled, looking at the floor. "I know what the Sentinel tells me, and I know that this time it's different because he won't even fight back. He needs our help." "Vax is getting help. You don't need to poke your nose into our business. You know, the Sentinel's friends are all the same. Always trying to help and getting themselves killed." Foxtrot looked back down at the map. "What about Vax?" Quinn stepped closer. Foxtrot looked up. "The Sentinel's return worries me for a reason." "But look at all she's done to help since meeting the Sentinel." Quinn leaned in. "Help me help you. Teach me how to fight," she whispered. "Why do you care so much?" Miser backed up and sat down. He crossed his leg over his knee and leaned back. "This isn't your world. These aren't your people." Quinn thought about it for a second. She was unsure of herself, but her answer came quickly nonetheless. "I'm a good person. I know I am. I think I need to prove it to myself. And I'm helping the best I can, the only way I know how when I'm surrounded by all these crazy people with magical powers. I'd fight if I could. I can teach you." Foxtrot cracked his knuckles. "I know Vax gave you a rifle already. I can show you how to use it and maybe give you some basic fighting instructions." "Thank you." Quinn leaned back, content with Foxtrot's more helpful attitude. The door swung open, startling Quinn, Miser, and Foxtrot. Vax stood on the other end, holding open the door. "It's the Sentinel. Come quickly." She let go of the door and ran. Quinn and Foxtrot made their way to the door immediately, and without question, Miser hesitated but followed after them eventually. When they made it to the room the Sentinel was being watched in, they all stopped. The Sentinel was glowing with plasma and screaming, sitting restrained in his chair. Quinn looked to her side, then back at the Sentinel. Something she saw caught her attention, and so she turned back. "Who are you?" she asked the man beside her. She stared at the glowing revstone around his neck. "I'm the Paradox Master." The Paradox Master stepped forward, approaching the Sentinel. "Come on, buddy, snap out of it. What's wrong?" He asked over the sound of burning plasma shooting from the Sentinel's eyes and mouth. He reached his hand out and stretched his fingers over the Sentinel's forehead. The plasma stopped. "Talk to me." "I should have ended it when I had the chance." The Sentinel breathed his words. He inhaled like air was a rarity. His tears were dry but still streaked his face. His jaw quivered, his hair stood on end. The whites of his eyes were red, his pupils were dilated and shaking. "What do you mean? What are you saying?" The Paradox Master couldn't look the Sentinel in the eye. "Who am I?" The Paradox Master didn't know what to do. He pulled his hand away, but the fingers stayed pressed against the Sentinel's forehead. Plasma crawled its way up his hand and collected itself under his palm. He pulled his hand away fully and grasped the revstone tightly. He shoved it in his pocket. "What did you just do?" Quinn looked at the Sentinel, who sat calmly now, then up at the Paradox Master, whom she'd never seen before. Ray planted false memories and altered existing ones. He created thoughts the Sentinel never had and ones he shouldn't. So I extracted them. He held out the revstone. The plasma that made up the crystal was blackened. It swirled around constantly like it was trying to escape, and the stone itself sounded as though it were quietly screaming while a tiny thunderstorm flashed inside of it. He should be back to himself now. The Sentinel looked down, leaning forward and only stopped from falling from the chair by the restraints around his wrists. "Can someone get me out of this thing?" he asked, letting out an exhausted breath. "Right." Vax darted her way behind the chair and undid the restraints. The Sentinel fell forward and the Paradox Master caught him, helping him stand up. "You need some rest," the Paradox Master whispered. The Sentinel nodded weakly. The Paradox Master escorted the Sentinel out of the room, the Sentinel's arm over his shoulder for support. Vax watched the Sentinel, her hands behind her back, twiddling her fingers. "Paradox Master," she spoke up before they left the room. The Paradox Master stopped for a moment to turn around. "What?" "He doesn't know." The Paradox Master looked away. "Right. Follow me." Vax launched into a fast walk as she followed the Paradox Master. Quinn followed suit. "How are you still here?" The Sentinel questioned the Paradox Master, not looking up as the Paradox Master continued to escort him. His head drooped and his arm dangled loosely by his side. "I've explained several times. I showed up after Code 6. Why didn't you ask me then?" "Might have been the shock from just having phased?" The Sentinel chuckled sarcastically. "But you know how. The split universe," the Paradox Master said, expecting the Sentinel to understand. "Could you explain it a bit better, please?" Still out of the loop. The Paradox Master laid the Sentinel down on a bed and stepped away. "Code 6. He twirled his hands as he spoke. Sparks of plasma formed and trailed behind his fingers as he painted a picture in the air before him. A spiral galaxy shape of plasma conjured itself between him and the Sentinel. A universe where there are beyond 5 Sentinels. A universe where the 5th Sentinel decides that he laughs in the face of death and phases himself for fun. The 6th Sentinel. You." The Sentinel nodded. "A universe, mind you, that is impossible." "Why?" he asked rhetorically. "Well, Code 5, for instance, is a universe where the 5th Sentinel embraced death and completed the cycle." The Paradox Master spread his arms apart. The cycling galaxy in front of him split into 2 identical galaxies, floating in harmony next to one another. The infinite cycle of Sentinels. Atom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Atom, 1, 2, etc. A cycle in time can't be broken. And yet here you are. The Sentinel stared at the 2 galaxies. He looked over at Vax, Quinn, Miser, and Foxtrot. Their faces were contorted in a confused knot, staring in awe at the plasmatic representations of the universe. Except that some separate events happened in both universes that were dependent upon each other. One could not exist without the other. Quinn, for instance, and all of the knowledge she has came from the Code 6 universe. However, she influenced key events in both the Code 5 and 6 universes. "Wait, but universes can't communicate with each other like that. That's impossible." "Big workday for me," the Paradox Master chuckled. He created another galactic shape representing a 3rd universe and sliced his hand across the middle of the 3 galaxies, cracking them all and distorting them. The plasma flickered. "What about the Sentinel that feared death?" The Sentinel looked up angrily at the Paradox Master. He caught a glimpse from Vax, ignoring it. "That would be me." The Paradox Master stepped back. A universe where the 5th Sentinel joined the emissaries of the Extraverse and gained immortality and the title, the Paradox Master. The true Paradox Master. No longer a Sentinel, but still carrying the weight of his past 5 lives. Another break of the cycle, and yet another impossible universe. The 3 plasmatic representations of the universe stood before them, all of them broken. All 3 of these universes are impossible. And yet here I am. Here I've been. And here you are. Both of us, products of an impossible universe. Adam Jaminsky, and by extension, us, cannot exist without Code 5, Code 6, or me. So how are we here? I was hoping you'd tell me. The Sentinel sat up in the bed, admiring the three representations of the universe. Well, being the Paradox Master, this kind of thing was right up my alley. I thought I could fix it, but instead I broke time and space, reality itself, by combining all three of these universes. The Paradox Master clapped his hands together, and the three universes combined into one, and although it was whole, it still flickered. I figured I could stitch together some sort of solid universe, dissolving the Nova Storm between them and sewing the universes together with a thread of their ghost timelines, and unbreak all of them. But instead I created one really, really broken universe. In my lifetime, there was a distinct moment that I did it, but because each universe has its own time stream, has its own version of reality, when they all combined, they intertwined. Things that were the same collided and became one. The lives of the first 4 Sentinels. They've all combined. You and I share the same exact past, Sentinel. We were the same person until our decisions differed. The Sentinel looked away, unable to retain eye contact with the Paradox Master. And just as things that were the same combined, things that were different, the futures of you and I, remained separate. But because the timelines combined, the now joined universe had no distinct moment when it combined. There was always only one universe, never 3, but the universe is still a combination of 3. Code 5 never happened, but it did. It had to. Code 6 never happened, but it did. I never happened, but clearly. And although, Sentinel, we are the same person with the same past, we share much different futures. I've already lived most of mine, but ours will both end soon. What are you saying? The Sentinel asked, worried. This broken universe is a product of my misjudgment. It's going to end. And if it ends, a chain reaction of events will cause the entire multiverse to crumble with it. We're going to die. Everyone is. So we have to save... Can't. The Paradox Master interrupted bluntly. The group of them was silent and afraid, waiting for the Sentinel to speak again. That's the difference between you and me. The Sentinel glared at the Paradox Master. I'm still the Sentinel. Don't get me wrong, I hope you find a way, but even the emissaries aren't sure how to save it. Why would they care about saving this universe? The Sentinel snapped. Life and death are from this universe, the Paradox Master reminded him. And like I said, this matter concerns the multiverse, the very thing the Extraverse rules over. It's essentially Time's kingdom. Saving it seems to be the Extraverse's top priority right now. How long were you waiting to tell me this? The Sentinel asked. I wasn't going to, the Paradox Master admitted. The Sentinel noticed Vax's abnormal silence and turned his attention to her. You knew about this, didn't you? He asked. Vax nodded, though hearing it a second time didn't make it any less confusing. The big bad doom is sort of just getting to me. I thought I'd die before I got to see the end of the universe and the multiverse with it, but... Sentinel, what's happening? Quinn asked nervously, trying to keep her cool. You'll be able to fix this, right? Miser asked. How do you expect me to save a universe you broke? The Sentinel turned his attention back to the Paradox Master. How do you expect me to save the entire multiverse? The Paradox Master answered concisely and coldly. I don't. The Sentinel hesitated for a moment before finally speaking again. I'll find a way to save it. His voice was cold, unwavering, hopeless. This was the beginning of the literal end. Foxtrot decided on his own time to train Quinn in the ways of clone combat. Quinn made it clear that she wanted to help, and the Sentinel encouraged that she be trained, not because he wanted her to fight, but because he knew that in the future Quinn was a skilled fighter. As paradoxical as the reasoning seemed, that was often the case with Quinn. Foxtrot held out an Andromedan rifle and displayed it to Quinn. They decided to train in the hangar of the Pantheon space station. This is the one that could be 2 pistols, right? She asked. Why, exactly? Seemed kind of counterintuitive. These rifles run on energy, not bullets. They've got a cooldown. Foxtrot fired at a target. You see, with rifle mode, you've got spread, and it heats up pretty quick. You get raw power and strength with high energy usage and low accuracy. Foxtrot's thumb moved to a button on the back end of the rifle. When he pressed it, it transformed into 2 separate pistols. Now it uses less power. You've got higher accuracy with the side effect of less firepower. But don't get me wrong, the laser is still strong. Plus, you can move around more with the pistols, right? Quinn asked. See, you're getting it. Foxtrot handed Quinn one of the pistols. I've set it to stun, low energy. Foxtrot turned a dial on his pistol. He walked over to the target and stood next to it. Hit me. Really? Quinn seemed reluctant to try. Come on, try it. Foxtrot encouraged her. Quinn fired at Foxtrot, and he ducked down, firing his pistol at her leg. Quinn fell, and Foxtrot ran after her. Quinn spun and kicked forward, but Foxtrot dodged, grabbing her leg and pinning her to the ground. He pointed his pistol at Quinn's head. You gotta be faster than that, He smiled, lowering the pistol and letting go. Quinn stood up, adjusted herself, and rubbed her leg. That wasn't a bad kick. Where'd you learn that? Foxtrot asked, impressed. Well, I guess a couple of years defending myself on the streets helped a bit. Quinn stretched and readied herself for another fight. I just wasn't ready because I thought we were just shooting. You gotta be prepared for anything in combat, Foxtrot said. Let's try again. They fought for a few more hours. Foxtrot taught everything he knew about fighting to Quinn. He knew she wouldn't pick it up all in a day, but it helped. Quinn was exhausted but wanted to keep going. She was curious about how Foxtrot knew so much about fighting. Foxtrot explained that when the clones were being produced for the army, they had all been made with preloaded knowledge in warfare, making them all super soldier fighting machines. Quinn wondered if maybe she could have that knowledge just injected in her. She mentioned it jokingly, but part of her was hoping it could happen. Foxtrot laughed it off and explained it only worked while making clones. They took a break and trained more, planning to make it a regular routine. During one of their training days a few weeks later, they were cut short by a surprise message. A ship landed in the hangar of the Pantheon that Foxtrot recognized as Ilsean in origin. He prepared his rifle and motioned for Quinn to stand back before he realized that it was a messenger ship. A small green Ilsean jumped from the ship and ran to Foxtrot, speaking frantically in Andromedan to him. Foxtrot's eyes widened as he heard the message relayed. He shared a look with Quinn, but she couldn't understand what the alien was saying. When the message was relayed, Foxtrot ran for the elevator in the center of the hangar. We've got to tell the Sentinel. What's happening? Quinn asked, quickly following Foxtrot. This isn't good.